okay, it's not Friday. I said it was Friday earlier in the show. Wishful thinking, we're halfway there. Mark Bertoli joining us from Abbott Wealth. It's great to have you back on the show.
Just felt like Friday because the sun's out.
I think that's what it is, honestly.
Yeah.
We're talking about the banks, the fiscal second quarter. I have no doubt they're doing well.
Yes, yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. Just to clarify something, the bank's year end is third quarter. So the fiscal second quarter is actually the first quarter of the year. So I just looked at a couple of the banks here and with respect to earnings. So if I could bring up that first chart, and I have RBC, TD, CIBC, and BMO on here. Interestingly, if you recall the first quarter, we had $26 oil, we had all sorts of events going on, and how's this going to affect the banks and so on. You can see 2015 was a record year of all time for RBC and for a lot of the banks. And other than BMO, RBC is up about 3% in the quarter. TD and CIBC are also doing very well. So despite all the negative news, you need to look at the earnings and see how these companies are doing. And so the next slide, what I thought I'd do is I'd try and link this for you into a little bit of logic behind the decisions that are being made with respect to buying and owning companies. So the top chart is what's called a price earnings chart. So what you would pay for a business relative to how much money it makes. Okay? So the lower you can pay for a business that makes money, the better off you are. So if you look on the right-hand side of the top chart, you see a dip in 2016. That was about the 15th, 16th of the month, and the market itself had fallen. Below it is a chart of the Royal Bank. You only had to pay about 8.75, 8.8 times their earnings to buy the Royal Bank. So if you look historically going back to 2012, you can see that you could have paid up to almost 15 times their earnings. So the lower you pay for a company relative to its earnings, the more on sale it is. So this is a chart that looks at, there's other factors that determine a price, but to buy Canadian banks for under 10 times earnings is a very rare event. Okay. So we talked about, is it broken or does it appear to be broken? Royal Bank, and it was the top one on the chart I'll talk about for a bit. 2015, we actually had a conversation when they earned $10 billion in 1 year. Record earnings of all time. Yet one of the factors that drove the price down was foreign money leaving Canada last year. So what happened is we had the price going down because of sales, but yet the earnings went up. So that affected that price earnings ratio.
Can we go back to that first chart maybe and just take another look at that?
The second.
Oh, it was the second one, sorry.
Yeah, the second screen there. Okay. In 2016 here, so you can look at throughout 2015, the price earnings ratio was falling. That's because the earnings were great and the price was going down because of pressure, because people from foreigners were selling out of Canada. Sure. And the banks are one of the biggest holdings that typically people have in Canada. So,
and we want the banks to do well because so many of us have some investments in them.
Oh yeah, and they are. I mean, I talk about, is it broken or does it appear to be broken? The Royal Bank was definitely not broken, but a lot of people thought it was. And so the price went down, and that, when something appears to be broken and it's not, that's when great opportunity arises for disciplined investors.
Okay, that's when you seize the day. We have a minute left. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
No, I think about the process, and we talked a little bit last week about the process being that you know what you own. If you know what you own and events happen around the world, we just had Brexit and all these different things going on, and yet the earnings are just fine. And if you know what you own, you know the earnings, and you know that you own quality companies in your portfolio, you can let a lot of the noise of the market go away. And can sleep better. And as always, statistically, the largest threat to a person's portfolio is their emotion. A price earnings ratio should be flat. The reason it goes up and down is because the price moves because people are emotionally doing things, or they're reacting to news or whatever. So the key is to know what you own
Yeah.
and take advantage when great companies go on sale.
Exactly. Well said, Mark. Thank you for being here today.
All right, thank you.
Any questions for Abbott Wealth? Information on the screen, abbottwealth.com, the email and the phone number 372-3736. We're back after a quick break.